Do I look okay there? I mean,
you look fantastic, Dave. I meant to say that immediately.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Man, yeah.
Let's do a little intro. The first guest on My Dad Used to Play Hockey, episode number 1. 535 games played, 79 goals, 121 assists for 200 total points. Add to that 2,294 penalty minutes. I'd like to welcome number 8, Dave the Hammer Schultz. Dave, thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, my pleasure. Thank you. Yes, glad to be here.
Let's start at the beginning. You weren't born Dave the Hammer Schultz. When did people start calling you that?
Oh God. Yeah, anyway, somebody reminded me about that the other day. Aren't you Dave? Not they call me the Hammer. A lot of people, not Schultz, but the Hammer. Anyway, it actually happened in 70. My first year in the National Hockey League, 72, 73, when I don't know, I fought some guy and I kind of did pretty well, so I'm trying to think of the writer who says, "Boy, Schultz really hammered him," and he was a writer for the Philadelphia Bulletin, and that's how it started.
So a writer actually named it, wasn't a teammate.
Yes.
It was a member of the media.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because the Hammer then, Dave, the Hammer became more than just a nickname. It kind of became a brand. It was what you came to be, not just you, but that whole team, but you were definitely like the centerpiece of the bullies when it comes to fisticuffs. Once you got that nickname, how did you, initially it's a great nickname. But how did you feel about people then knowing you as the Hammer?
Well, I'm not sure. You just go with it. I'm not so sure I've ever felt really comfortable with it. Again, I didn't like to fight anyway, but I did. I fought a lot. Once I got the reputation in the Eastern Hockey League, my first year out of junior, so it was just when people call me. And again, it everybody. And did I really feel comfortable with it? To be honest with you, I didn't think about it. I couldn't. It was what it was, and I just kept playing hockey. And again, what was crazy in those days was our whole team. And again, it's the same case, I guess, throughout sports. Athletes, they're given, and usually from in the locker room, given nicknames. And we had almost every one of our guys had a nickname.
Mm-hmm.
And some were better than others, I guess, or whatever, for whatever reason. And you just nothing you can do about it.
And let's talk about that team, that legendary Broad Street Bully team. You're a 2-time Stanley Cup champion. You scored the series clinching goal in the first round of the 74 playoffs against the Atlanta Flames, starting that whole the pathway to that dynasty. And then you had also one of the most iconic coaches of all time, Fred the Fog Shiro. And I've always found it interesting, Dave, is that there was something so Buddha-esque, so Zen-like about Shiro. And then he ended up coaching a team like the Broad Street Bullies, who were just known to just, live up to their nickname. They were just going to flatten your team. How did he become the leader of, what became that, ragtag group of Canadians that won over Philadelphia?
He liked tough players. Originally, when he was growing up, he was a boxer, but he liked tough players. Excuse me, and he, in a way, he was as much responsible as the rest of us, because he allowed that. Some coaches would not, and therefore, well, he did say, he says, someone asked him a question once, and excuse me, I've got something in my throat here. Anyway, he said, they asked him about, why, his team they fought so much. He said, look, they like to fight, so I just let them. Well, that's he let us all right, and that's not like, it's not like he was a proponent of it, or I suppose he liked a tough team. He did it in the minor leagues for many years prior, and so when we had the right mix of guys to get the job done. I mean, back in those days, teams were tough. I mean, the Bruins, excuse me, the Bruins, we just kind of followed, and the St. Louis Blues, they were brutal. They would try to intimidate you all the time. And so I kind of, my whole life changed when I went to the Eastern Hockey League. And I started fighting. I don't know why, because I wasn't a tough kid by any means. I never fought in junior. But once I got in one fight, then another fight, and all of a sudden in the Eastern Hockey League, there was a lot of fighting going on.
Yeah.
I said, I just kind of adopted that role. And
as a way to get noticed, was it where you're noticing like there was more interest in you, the more physicality you brought to your game?
Well, I mean, there's no question that when you're playing tough and fighting, the fans loved it, and your teammates loved it. I mean, there was times that guys would say, some of my teammates would say, you get a chance, give it to so and so, because they were being intimidated, and that's not when I'm playing on that team. They're not gonna. Somebody's going to have to do something, and therefore that's what I did, as well as others. I wasn't alone. Of course, in the Eastern Hockey League, I was pretty much alone. But that's when I started, and that's just continued on for 3 years in the minors, 2 years in the American League, and then to the Flyers in '72.
And you have still, Dave, the single season record for penalty minutes, 472 penalty minutes. Single season record.
Single season. If I could have played 15 years like Tiger Williams did, well, I did have 4,000 penalty minutes. 4,000. That includes my minor league. I'm not including. I didn't include junior. Just my 3 years in the minor leagues. Yeah. I mean, so the single season record was, 472. But again, in fairness, it was a lot of misconducts.
Sure.
They would hand them out like candy. They don't do that anymore.
No.
In fact, they brought in a rule: if you get 3 game misconducts, you get suspended for a game. If you get a 4th one, you get suspended for 2 games. So it kept escalating. Well, I never played under those rules at all. I get 2, 5, 10 in a game. Well, that's 20. What is 2 minutes? Whatever. That's
25 minutes in one game. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you didn't actually sit for 8 hours in the penalty box.
No.
And let's talk about the penalty box, Dave. The 70s were a time where you could have regional pop hits, and kind of local celebrities were encouraged to perform songs. And you had a song, and would you call it a hit song? Because I've heard it.
Well, it was a hit song.
The penalty box, it's called.
Elton John was second on the hit parade. Again, it came out in when we were playing in the 74, 75 against Buffalo in the playoffs, and again locally they played it every 15 minutes. But again, I was a terrible singer. The guy that wrote that song was Cal Mann, who used to write for Chubby Checker and Elvis. So anyway, it was just a spoof kind of thing. And
it was a novelty song.
Yes,
but it's
absolutely
catchy.
The music, yeah, it was catchy. Yeah, yeah,
When's the last time you
yeah.
listened to it?
Oh, every day. Yeah. When I'm down and out,
Yeah.
I play it. But it is crazy because, and I guess the biggest thing is in our society is technology. I mean, I could be, I don't care where, and if I say, in fact, the other day I don't know where I was, but I said, yeah, play it, and you can Google it or whatever on your cell phone
Mhm.
and play the song. I mean, who would have thought that was going to happen?
It's right there.
Yeah, yeah. So
I would say it holds up, Dave. I mean, at least the chorus does. I've considered covering it. I've played in a band, and I think that it would fit nicely in our
yeah.
lineup. It's a good tune. I would be proud of it if I were you.
I just wish I could sing.
Me too. That's my biggest drawback as a lead vocalist. Not being able to sing is kind of, it's a big handicap.
But and again, sometimes, particularly when my teammates, some of my former teammates are around, it's a little embarrassing. But on the other hand, when it's fans, they think it's funny. A lot of fans, younger fans today, they go, "What? What are you talking about?" And then they'll play it on their cell phone. Yeah.
Well, let me tell you this, Dave. If any of your former teammates made fun of you, it was born from jealousy. Believe me, they all would have jumped at the chance to have a pop song written about their career. I mean, I know my dad would have, without a doubt. Which is, this whole podcast is named after a song that I wrote about him, and I would probably call it the greatest honor of his life. I wanted. It's the. I'll send you the link. It's the intro to the podcast. It's called "My Dad Used to Play Hockey." There's a dig at Gary Bettman because that's the way my dad talks. It's a good tune. I think he's happy with it. I think that you'll enjoy it.
Awesome.
But it's funny. He has, my dad, Oris Kinderchuk, your former line mate, often faults you for the reason he didn't score about 150 more NHL goals. Does that constantly.
I fault him for me not scoring at least another 5 to 8 goals because he didn't pass me the puck. But your dad was a good player. In fact, I always say he was the best third line center in the league.
Yes, I've heard him say that.
That was crucial for us winning championships.
Absolutely. I think that he's really come to be appreciated as really an incredibly important piece of that team. But that's enough saying good things about my dad. He'll get his own episode. He'll get his own thing. One of the things, just to go back to Fred Shero, and I've watched the HBO documentary about you. I've certainly watched a lot of the games. But one thing that always makes me almost tear up is his quote. And he was famous for writing quotes on the board, inspirational things to think about. Again, going back to that sort of Zen mindset they had.
I saved them all.
You saved them all.
I have them all. Oh yeah.
That's great.
And I'm in the process of trying to I'm going to write a book and in the next year, and I anticipate putting a lot of those in the book. But Fred Shero was an incredibly good coach. Loved the game. Loved, if he loved more than anything are his players. Loved his players. And treated us, again, a lot of coaches back in those days, and maybe even some today, very rude, crude. They thought that's how they would get, and maybe they're right to a certain extent, but not Fred Shero. In fact, a lot of times, again, they called him the frog, but sometimes if I wanted to know what he was thinking, I'd read the newspaper. He'd tell the newspaper reporters certain things to knowing that I would, because he wouldn't say them maybe to me, but he'd say them to the reporter, and I'd read it. Like example, I scored I scored 2 hat tricks, um, in '74-5, and Fred Shiro, I'm looking in the paper, and he says, "Well, I think I need a new tough guy because Schultz thinks he's a goal scorer." I soon went back to my ways, but anyway, yeah, he was a great coach.
And the quote, and we'll talk about your favorite too, but the one is probably his most famous is win today and we'll walk together forever. And you just talked about the fact that he loved his players, and one thing that I love about the Flyers organization, specifically the team of your era, is that his love for the team sort of translated into you guys truly caring for one another. We're 45 years after the Cup, and it's really great how many of the players from that team are still in touch and still connect with one another. And is Shiro the reason for that? Is that the kind of culture they had created where
he was part? We had great leadership too in the dressing room, like Bob Clark and Ed Van Imp and Joe Watson and Dorney, and so. But yeah, I mean, Fred, again, very unique. Loved his team. He loved his team. He loved the players, and that was a phenomenal quote. It worked out so well because that was the day the game we won to win the Cup. I have a number of favorites, but the one is, and this was early in my career, first year or two, he'd hand out these sayings to us all the time, and I saved every one of them. But the one that I like the most is, if you do not want to be criticized, say nothing, do nothing, and be nothing. That was so important for me because we were all being criticized, but around the National Hockey League. But I was obviously being criticized all the time. The things they called me, and they it makes me mad in a way, because some of the reporters, like and again, I'm not knocking them, but in Toronto, they were vicious and all. Yeah, and the Bruins weren't, and St. Louis wasn't, and it goes on and on. So we didn't take any crap. That's all. We just didn't.
Yeah.
And so therefore, did we carry it on a little bit too much? Well, you don't want to be up or down 6-1 with 5 minutes to go, because we were going to have some fun for the next game. Anyway, so and we had a number of guys that could fight. I mean, Lonsberry could fight. Obviously DuPont and not so much Selesky.
Nah.
But anyway, that's fine. I mean, he became a pretty good hockey player. Scored almost 30 goals one year, or he did, whatever. Your dad could fight, and in fact, I'm playing. I think must have been in Buffalo, because I was in Pittsburgh, and I got traded to Buffalo, and your dad fought me. He lost, by the way.
I didn't know you two fought.
Yes.
What's that like? I mean, you again, going back to that quote, win today, we'll walk together forever, eventually, but in a couple of years, we might actually drop the gloves.
I mean, I fought DuPont, but that was before I made the Flyers, before he came to the Flyers. And I used to always tell him how I beat the crap out of him. And he'd say the same thing about me. But I don't know. He was playing for Pittsburgh, and I was with Buffalo, and we got in a little skirmish. I'm never fought the Hound, never fought Bob Kelly. With that would not work.
No. Why not?
Because we were two tough guys, kind of. Obviously, and that how I got into a scrimmage with your dad, I don't remember.
But you remember the aftermath? Was it kind of like good to see you again, or now that you have different uniforms on, your enemies?
Oh, well, I mean, not during the game, you know. Well, they had to take your dad, you know, to get some stitches. And concussion. No, but anyway, you know, I mean, the one guy I did fight, and he's actually the guy that took my place, really, because he was big and strong, was Paul Holmgren. And that's why they knew he was coming up. He was a good player, and so that's when they traded me. But yeah, that was the worst game. The worst game I ever had to play in was when I got traded to LA and came back to Philly to play the Flyers. Worst game. I got kicked out actually. So I got in a fight with Paul Holmgren, and anyway, that was not fun.
Why? Just it was hard to return home.
Coming back to Philly. You know, I didn't know how to handle it. It wasn't fun.
Do you remember how the crowd received you? Because Philly can be brutal, even with its heroes.
Yeah. Well, I think initially they gave me a nice welcome, but by the time I fought Homer, they weren't quite as happy. But you know, the fans have always been great to me in Philly, even to this day, and even as my career, you know, went another 4 years. Yeah, great years here in Philly.
Let's talk about some of the legacy that you've left behind in the NHL and with the Flyers organization. First, let's start with the NHL and the now long defunct WHA. You kind of were the inspiration for a new rule dubbed the Schultz Rule, where you were wearing kind of boxing tape on your hands, under your gloves.
I'd go out for warm up, and I'd come back in between warm up and the game. I'd put some stickum on it just to kind of hold my hand in place, you know. And it was nothing more, you know. And then I got in that fight with Van Boxmeer. Well, it wasn't a fight. I just kind of leveled him. And so they said, you know, they brought in a new rule. If you have foreign substance on your hand and you hurt somebody, you get a game misconduct. Well, you know, but you know, I never got a game misconduct. You know, well, the rule wasn't even in when I hit Van Boxmeer, but in the rest of my career, I never. I had to stop wearing it, didn't I? Yeah.
Right.
What am I thinking?
Because of the Schultz Rule.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then I didn't. You wrote a piece in 1982, Dave, for the New York Times.
Yes.
It was a letter to your son Chad, and I know your son Chad. Yeah. And it was kind of condemning, I guess, the more violent aspects of not just the NHL in general, but also the violent aspects of your career. What brought that upon? Like, what inspired you?
I wasn't violent. I mean, they would say, you know, using your stick, spearing, slashing, now that's violence. Then they'd show a picture of me fighting and say, there we go, there's violence. I never hurt anybody. All I was trying to do was to say, look, you want to mess around and try and intimidate my teammates, I'm going to come after you. So it was a little bit of I wrote a book that 40 some years ago, written by Stan Fischler. It was a little bit, you know, contradictory, I guess. But again, I didn't think I was. I know I wasn't violent. I never used my stick on anybody. So I wrote that letter to my son. I don't know how that came about. It was out of New York, I guess. I think Times. I don't know. So, I'm at the point where, I'm not going to stop fighting at that point. Um, um, I'm trying to think of, I might have wrote that after my career was over.
Yes.
Yes.
Soon after.
Yeah. Just saying, son, don't, I got so much publicity and so much, people hated me. They thought I was violent, whatever. Okay. So I was just trying to, explain, uh, but I guess it came out very contradictory. Why was I doing that? Um, and again, I didn't. To me, I wasn't violent,
Mm-hmm.
but I certainly did. You know, take care of, or change the rules. Um, so much a part of fighting guys, but again, people thought I couldn't wait to fight. I hated fighting. Okay, hated it. I didn't want to fight. But once you get that reputation, and again, all I wanted to do was show someone, you come after one of my teammates, and me or one of my other teammates is going to come after you,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore we, to me, instead of we were being intimidating, we were protecting ourselves, and that's why nobody messed around with us, and we let the guys, play the game. I mean, Clarkie and Billy Barber and, Reggie Leach, all these, and, your dad, and of course, sometimes your dad ended up killing penalties, but,
Your penalties.
well, you know what? For the most part, I never had that many.
Penalty
I
minute.
usually got 2, 5, and 10, but the other guy got 2, 5, and 10.
Offsets.
So I never left my teammates, shorthanded a whole lot.
Yeah.
But anyway.
And then in 2009, and this must have been a great moment to be recognized, by the Flyers organization. You were inducted into the Philadelphia Flyers Hall of Fame. That must have felt like such a redemption for the career that you put together in Philadelphia.
Well, yeah, it was awesome. I mean, I still, to this day, and the reason that happened, it's Mr. Snyder, Mr. Ed Snyder. I think he, well, I played 4 years with the Flyers, and I think he wanted me, in the Flyers Hall of Fame. And so I don't know who was making, those decisions are made by a board, get so many votes or whoever that does. Same thing with an all-star. Anyway, but I say it was Mr. Snyder that said, guys, get Schultz in there. And it was awesome. It really was.
All right, final question, Dave. Today's game. How much you enjoy watching?
I'm not going to say I don't enjoy it. I mean, it's not the same game. I mean, there's very little hitting. I don't know. I don't care about the fighting. It's just, I think the toughest part for me is to watch a guy making $5 million, okay, in one season, and I made $500,000 in 11 years in the National Hockey League, in the minors. That's okay, and I'm not knocking the guys, okay, but we should have, if we had had the right director of or the head of the Players Association. What he should have done, again, he got put in jail for I don't know how many years or whatever, but what he should have been installed in every time the average salary goes up, our pension goes up. I mean, I make chump change on my pension.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, $7,000 a year isn't that good. you know. And again, that's and I have to pay taxes on it, and that's Canadian. That's you have to transfer it into Canadian. I
Wow.
mean, you know. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, again, that's the part that upsets me the most. That our pensions are so small. Now, I will say the NHL has done a supplemental for guys that once you get 65, like me, uh, which really helps. It's not a lot of money, again, but you know, if I'd have played baseball, I'd be making 100 G's a year or more.
Yep.
And it keeps going up. But again, that's another different sport. That's America's sport, baseball. But anyway, so again, these guys are they train really hard, okay, compared to what we didn't. I went home to Saskatchewan and sat and drank some beer by the lake instead of training. But so it can be exciting. I think in the last couple of years, it's even gotten so-called softer. Well, you change the rules. Okay, I mean, can you imagine if there was no holding and hooking back then? I'd have been flying down that wing. So it's they're better athletes, but there's not the whole game, the whole ice is wide open. You can't. There's no slowing anybody down, like there was back in my day. I mean, some guys they relied on that big time. Some of our defensemen holding and hooking and grabbing, and they were good at it. So it slowed players down, and that is not the case today.
And I guess one more thing, you mentioned you're writing another book. What stories does Dave the Hammer Schultz have left to tell that we didn't get in the first book?
Well, you didn't get any in the first book. That was 40 years ago. And again, with no disrespect, okay, the guy that wrote it, he hated us. He hated the Flyers. He hated Clarkey. So I'm, and I never had much involvement in that book. This one will be totally different. I'm hoping it's the name of the book will be Hammered by Life, because I'm not going to tell you right now how I got hammered by a lot of things. Alcoholism, bullying as a kid, a couple other big ones, finances. It's been and again my fault. I mean, when you get out of the game as I did, and you become a drink, you're a drunk. Why didn't I get help back then? I didn't. Okay, so it's been I don't know. Again, read the book.
Well, let's because that is a topic, actually, Dave. If you can hang on a little while longer, that is, I'm a recovering alcoholic myself, and always feel I'm an alcoholic in recovery. You're not recovered.
Huh? You're
not recovered.
10 years ago, or 12 years ago. Well, about 20 years ago, I used to smoke a pack and a half a day. I put out the cigarette, and I've never had a cigarette since. This is about 20 years ago. About 10, 12 years ago, I was drunk every second night. And I decided I can't do this. It's going to kill me. I stopped. I used to drink whiskey. I drink wine now. And I'm now, again, with this COVID, sitting here in my little condo. I'm sitting by the water. No boats are going by. It's too cold. Okay, it's a few ducks, stupid Canadian geese. So I'm now determined that something has to happen here with this, and
You still think you're drinking too much?
I only drink wine.
Yeah.
And I mix it. Yes, yeah. Lately, was I drinking too much over 5 years prior? It's gotten really bad lately. And again, I'm just sitting here. What am I supposed to do? I mean, nobody's working. Well, they're working from their home.
Mm-hmm.
I have nothing. I sell energy, but I haven't sold energy for. I started a business, lost big time, a couple of years ago. So I got some work to do.
And what do you plan to do about it?
Detox. I mean, this only has come up in the last week or two, where I knew I was in trouble. So that's I recently remember Chris Therian?
Yes. Yep.
He's had major articles in the Inquirer last weekend. Okay. And he's been dry 10 years. And he bought the flyer said get lost. Okay. And because he was there, he played for 16 years or 14 and was in broadcasting for 14, and all of a sudden he had nothing. So he actually has bought a business that does recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And so I called him, and I'm just trying to figure out exactly when and what I'm going to do about it. But then I go, well, what am I? It's too late. Well, it's not too late, because I am 71, so I'm just trying to figure out exactly. Chris Therian's going to help, kind of guide me, whatever, and I have to. It's not going to be easy, I guess, right? How long have you been recovering?
Just a few months. I went to one of those detox facilities that you're talking. I'm assuming you're doing inpatient, like you would commit yourself to a facility and stay there.
I will. Yes.
It's the best way to do it.
Yes.
That worked. I didn't leave. Make sure you have a post plan too. Because when I left, I didn't. It was just like back into the world. And as well as I do, Dave, it's hard to fill your time, especially during this COVID. It's having a beer and just relaxing sounds great, but and that's
you.
Thank you. And
yeah,
it's and now I have some support structure. There's definitely, if you can set up someone, I'm not going to preach this whole thing, but if you ever have any more questions about it, reach out. But I'm glad that you're, and if I don't know why you feel like the past couple of weeks things have taken a turn, but you saying it's never too late. That's absolutely true. It's never too late.
Again, you know what? I wouldn't be even contemplating if it wasn't for Chris Therian.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, who had huge articles in the paper, and he talked about it. Again, he's been dry 10 years, and he's helping me, so I'm he will be my post help.
Great.
My sons. My sons will be, there's a number of reasons why, because I thought I was doing okay, but my granddaughter died a little over a year ago, and that was really been really tough for my family and certainly my son and his wife. Anyway, and then this COVID thing. I mean, it's we're locked down here. I can't wait to. I'm going to move. I'm going to move to Florida.
For real, for good.
Yeah.
Good for you.
That's my game plan. Yes, that's a whole different country there.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, I know your dad's living the good life too.
He's figured things out. He has.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. A lot of guys have had a lot of success after their. Me, I've tried. Anyway, I've had some success, no question. I mean, I've had some good times, but yeah, it is what it is, and it's tough. I saw, and again, I don't know if we still have time here.
Plenty.
I saw a video. It was a documentary on wounded warriors, because we actually, our alumni, Brad Marsh is our head of our alumni, and he coaches them, the Wounded Warriors hockey team. Great bunch of guys. I haven't even actually gone to meet them, but they did a documentary, and it was, I'm watching, as some of these guys come back from wherever they were in the world, fighting and injured, and you don't have to necessarily have your arms or legs blown off, but even in your head. And I'm telling you, I said, wow, that's me. When I got out of the game, what was I to do? I knew nothing. I'm a good businessman. I mean, I had a limousine for service for 25 years. I managed an ice rink for 8. Then I went coaching a little bit in the minors. So, but my point is that I felt like a wounded warrior. What mentally, and that's how I become an alcoholic. I started drinking. Not that I used to have a few beer when I played, but not like I went to Canadian Club, Diet Coke. Yeah, so it's been, I just, and again, to say, wow, I wish I'd done this long time. Well, I didn't, so let's not worry about that. Let's move ahead.
Well, there's an old saying, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So,
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So I've never, financial troubles. Oh my God. I've never told anybody that, again, I haven't, I'm just working on, because I only came up with this idea about a week ago. Okay. And now I have to make it happen.
Is it some of the financial stress too that propels you to drink?
Oh my God! I've been living under financial. I never. Looking. I started a business. Okay, and they said, "Oh, you can make a lot of money," but they didn't tell me it would cost me $1 million, which I didn't have. It's the Amazon business. I don't like them. I'm not knocking it. It's my own fault. Okay. But putting me right on the balls of my ass.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it just did. Anyway, so I'm, it'll all be explained in the book.
Yeah.
Okay. And I have another reveal that you have to read the book.
We look forward to it.
Huh?
Well, I totally look forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a reveal that I was a kid when it happened, and it affects me to this day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, I have to say, there was an alumni Christmas party last year during all this COVID times, and the highlight for my dad was the post-party conversation with you. So it was great to see two teammates, decades later, still connect and be able to share memories and share some laughs. It was great.
I've shared more with your dad in the last couple of years than I did prior. Well, we're all busy doing this and that, and anyway. But I still have his life insurance policy. Yeah.
Yeah. It was the alternate name for the podcast. Is my dad used to sell life insurance, but I decided to go with my dad used to play hockey. I thought it was a more interesting angle.
Well, yes, of course. Although he did pretty well at in the
He
insurance
did
business.
incredibly well, without a doubt.
Yes. Yeah.
Dave, great to catch up with you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Man,
Yes.
really great. Good luck. I'm glad
I'll
that.
let you know how I'm making out.
Please
This
do.
is another good thing. This thing about as I'm sitting here, again, you can't see. It's the ocean. Ocean City's right across, about 3 or 4 miles of water here.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm sitting here, sell insurance or energy, I should say, but that's not happening too much. I'm trying to maintain my accounts. Anyway, I decided to write a book. And that's what's going to save me. It's going to be good for me.
Good.
We're going to have to do some promotions with it and all that kind of stuff, and go across Canada like I did 40 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, so that's where it is. And, okay.
That's a great. It's great to have a project. That's something that I think that a lot of people will tell you.
Yes. Oh, I mean, I am imagining, all the things I've got to do to get it done, and to it's really. Sometimes I think my kids go, man, I don't know what the hell's Dad doing, but this isn't for them. This is for me.
Yeah. Good.
And the realizing that I need to stop drinking. That's for me.
It has to be.
It'll certainly help my family too, I guess. But yeah. Okay.
That's not selfish, Dave. You have to be good to yourself before you can be good to others.
That's correct. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I've my life changed quite dramatically when about 10 years ago, or maybe more, when I started listening to and reading, and actually went to Toronto for a week with Bob Proctor,
Mm-hmm.
who wrote, what's his book? Well, he was part of You Were Born Rich. It was his book. I listen to him still all the time, and he's a brilliant man. And he's up to talking to. He's 85 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so maybe we can do this again when my book comes out.
Dave, I guarantee we're going to do this again when your book comes out. And anytime, please check in. I'd love to know how you're doing. If you have any questions about my experience, or you just want to talk and not think about drinking for an hour, hell, I'm here.
Me and you are in the same boat.
Yeah,
right.
We are.
So you've been a good guy.
I've been better than I've been in a long, long time.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. And
okay.
Definitely the cutting out of the booze.
You're totally cut it out.
Totally cut it out. Yeah. Yeah. It sucks, but it's the best.
It sucks.
But it's also the best.
Yes. Got it.
You'll get a piece of you back you didn't even realize you've lost.
Chris Therian told me, says that miracles will happen.
Yeah.
Whatever you consider a miracle. So.
Well, good luck. Dave, the Hammer Schultz, the great number 8, Philadelphia Flyers, Hall of Fame, 2-time Stanley Cup champion. Thank you so much for being the first guest, Dave, on My Dad Used to Play Hockey.
My pleasure. Hopefully many, many more. Congratulations. So. Yeah.
Thank you, Dave. Talk to you soon.
Yep. Very good.
So long.
See ya.
See ya.